The story begins in the time of mages and kings. Sheila Lancaster, who is accused of setting fire to the palace and murdering the crown prince, is sentenced at the Grand Court. Next to her are two guards. Sheila stands in fear in front of the judge with a golden gag in her mouth and shackles on her hands. She is not allowed to say a single word, because she is not guilty, but the verdict has already been announced. Her eyes are almost in tears with fear. The royal guard holds her hands behind her back so that the girl cannot escape. The judge handed down a death sentence, which takes effect the next day. All those present at the court do not take their eyes off the girl. She does not understand anything. There is despair in her eyes. Sheila doesn't try to resist. Her body doesn't seem to belong to her, because in her head there are only thoughts about her innocence and not understanding fate. Suddenly she was called by her father, who came up with the heroine's older sister. The Duke of Lancaster gave a more painful sentence than the judge, declaring that Sheila no longer belonged to the Lancaster family. The girl ignored the words. On the contrary, she was happy to see Daisy and her father. She said that they would help her. Sheila wanted to prove her innocence in the events of which she was accused. Daisy looked at her younger sister with pity. Her sad green eyes and confused expression conveyed the pain of her sister's accusations. She did not understand how the brunette could help, and Jared Lancaster addressed all those present in the court, saying that he did not manage to raise his daughter, because of which he caused grief to the country. His every wrinkle conveyed shame and pain. For Sheila, the words were a painful blow. Her whole body seemed to be paralyzed because she did not expect such words from her own father. Behind stood a stunned crowd of witnesses. The royal guard rudely nudges the girl behind to play, expressing contempt. She falls on the cold floor, telling herself that she is innocent in all events, but the gag on her mouth still prevents her from uttering her thoughts. Lying on the floor, bound, she feels angry that she has been accused and sent to death row. She was not given the opportunity to express her non-involvement, which confuses her the most. Suddenly, Sheila's attention was drawn by the sound of someone's footsteps. The girl knelt down and looked around. The brunette was very surprised, because in front of her stood Daisy in a dark cloak. The blonde with gorgeous green eyes held up a finger using magic. This led to the release of the stunned Sheila. The shackles and gag clattered to the damp prison floor. Daisy apologizes for Sheila being taken into custody. The girl explains that she and her father specially played out the scene, because this is a necessary measure in order for the real killer to lose his vigilance. The girl had bruises on her lips and wrists after being shackled. She is trying her best not to cry. The girl trusts her sister and tells her that she is everything to Sheila. Sisters holding hands. The younger one explains to the older one that she would never dare to kill her sister's fiancé. The older one smiles reassuringly and gently holds the brunette's hands as she says she knows the truth. Sheila could not stand the tension and began to cry. She believed that her sister would never want to see her again. This would be a great blow to her, because she loved her sister and father very much. Daisy hugs her younger sister tenderly and is sure that she will never leave her. The blonde smiles gently and lovingly, giving instructions to run away until the real killer is found, because there is only a little left. Sheila puts on Daisy's cloak and leaves the prison through damp, wide, half-lit corridors. The blonde looks after her, as if mentally giving a sisterly blessing. When Sheila looked back, Daisy waved her hand and reassured her that they would meet very soon and never be apart again. These words warm Sheila's heart and give her hope for the best. Suddenly, everything in front of Sheila's eyes is red. Blood starts to flow from her lips. The girl's eyes look in front of her in bewilderment, because the pain catches her by surprise. She loses her balance and falls to the floor. Sheila fell to the floor from the wound. Daisy is barely standing, holding on to the wound, and the elder Prince Arthur, who wounded Sheila, declares that it was the brunette who injured her sister with black magic. Incomprehension flashes in her eyes. The girl looks at her sister and does not believe that the blonde could have slandered her, because the heroine is not to blame for this. Sheila is trying to understand what is going on here. Daisy trembles in pain. She holds her hand over the wound because the black magic hit her hard. She tries to prove that her sister could not do this. The girl assumed that it could be someone else. The prince rejects Daisy's words, explaining that there is no point in protecting Sheila. He is sure that the girl is completely involved in black magic, which is why she commits such terrible crimes. He unexpectedly struck Sheila, thanks to which he was able to take away her magic. The source of the girl's magic shone in his bloody palm with a bright golden light. He was smiling with satisfaction. Arthur decided to transfer the magic to Daisy, but she's not sure she can accept it, which is why the prince insists that only she can wield such powerful magic and channel it for good. The blonde holds magic in her hands, but she is still not sure that this is the right decision, due to such lightning events. The golden light plays warmly between her palms while the girl decides what to do with him. Sheila trembles in pain, but finds the strength to get up from the ground a little. She proves to her sister that she cannot be the dark magician of their family. Daisy sadly holds the magic in her hands, then approaches the girl. Daisy calmly agrees with her sister's every word, but there is sarcasm in her words. The blonde's next words turn out to be accusations not of her sister, but only of her magical power. Sheila looks at Daisy in alarm. Her whole face and clothes are covered in blood, and her eyes are almost crying because the truth of Daisy's words and actions is gradually beginning to dawn on the girl. Sheila realized her sister's betrayal. Daisy says Sheila has to give up the magic, so she accepts it. The magic in the blonde's hands sparkles with a golden glow, and on her face is the satisfied smile of the winner who just got everything. Sheila can't hold back her tears. She does not understand why her sister suddenly betrayed her. Despair and pain in the eyes, which cannot be expressed in simple words. The girl does not want to believe in the betrayal of the closest person. The prince blocks Daisy's way to her sister. He is confident in his actions. Daisy tries with all her body to show how sorry she is for her sister, but Sheila has already understood the whole falsity of the situation. Covered in bruises and blood, Sheila cries even more. The incomprehension of betrayal is indicated by the pain on her face, which increases with each passing minute. The body trembles more every minute. The lips bite into blood. Arthur grabs Sheila by the hair and drags her to the gallows. The guy doesn't think it's necessary to wait, so he decides to execute the girl right now, in front of many townspeople. His actions are confident and cold. The girl does not want to die, but she does not want help from anyone, especially since the townspeople kept repeating that she should be burned as a witch. Tied to the cross in the arms of the flame, she begs for help. Suddenly, like a ghost, a woman puts a gold pendant in the shape of a cross with a blue sapphire in the center around the girl's neck. Sheila stands submissively, and the woman is a reminder that there is nothing good in people, and one must be careful. The ghost of the woman in the crown embraces a surprised Sheila. She directs the girl to finish the work she started but was unable to finish. Sheila does not understand anything and listens to the woman in surprise. Sheila regains consciousness and has no idea where she is. For some time she tries to understand. This is reality, or she has already died. Her expression looks exhausted and a little pained. The girl is lying in bed, bound by chains, looking around the room. Everything is very similar to the same palace, which, 3 years ago, together with the prince. It was because of these events that she was accused and executed. Trying to get up, she feels the chains on her hands, which are tied behind her back. She looked behind her and suddenly saw her. She realized that she had just returned to the events of her life 3 years ago. Suddenly, she remembers how she found herself in the prince's chambers. 3 years ago, someone poisoned the girl with pills, brought her to the prince's palace to seduce him, but the man was very angry and chased her out of the palace and the academy. After learning about this, Prince Arthur, who was Sheila's fiancé, broke off the engagement, and his brother felt disgusted with the girl, because of which he forbade her to attend the Academy of Magic, which she dreamed of more than anything. She was in her thoughts, not understanding how she was able to return because she was killed at the stake. She was pulled out of her reverie when the bedroom door suddenly opened and a woman's silhouette appeared. Sheila pretended to be unconscious, as she had been a few minutes ago. A girl approached the bed and carefully looked at her, checking whether the young girl was really still unconscious. Sheila's older sister was an uninvited guest. She looked at her sister as if she were her toy. Daisy was hiding some kind of bottle in her hands, and she had a wicked smile of the winner on her face. She came closer to the bed, lifted her sister's head by her hair, and poured an unknown liquid into her mouth. All the movements were sure, as if Daisy had been planning this for a long time, wanting to destroy her sister as soon as possible. Daisy pushed Sheila away and told her that there should be only one mage in the family, and that would be Daisy. Therefore, Sheila should not appear at the academy, because they do not want to see the Duke's illegitimate daughter there. As soon as Daisy left the room, Sheila opened her eyes and smiled slightly, because she realized that all the events that negatively affected the girl's life were the work of her beloved older sister. Confidently taking off the shackles, Sheila made a promise to herself that now everyone would pay for their crimes, because she was reborn, and that meant only one thing. She was given a chance, and everything would not be as Daisy planned. From Sheila's memories, she was sitting with her sister and father in a spacious living room. The Lancaster family has fallen on hard times because of the Crown Prince's actions. Therefore, the Duke longed to regain his glory through a magical weapon. The Duke was sure that it was necessary to create a magical weapon, but only one person in their family was capable of such a thing, and it was the younger Sheila, because only she had the magic of light. Daisy was against it, because it was too difficult for a newbie like Sheila. The Duke thought, because he could not force his daughter to take such a step. They understood what it might be worth for Sheila's level of magic. Sheila loved her father and sister very much, so she happily assured him that she would be able to make several appearances in magical weapons. She looked like a naive child, ready for anything for the sake of the family. Untying the shackles, she realized that her father and her sister had been using the girl all along. This caused incredible pain in Sheila's heart because all her life she tried for the good of her family. In her mind, Sheila saw how her life was changing and decided that it was Daisy who should die this time. She imagined herself in a red dress inserting a sword into the chest of her sister, who had caused her so much pain. Before the Crown Prince entered the room, Sheila decided to act first. She quickly jumped out of the room and started shouting to the whole palace that they wanted to kill her. She didn't look scared at all. The girl met Prince Li Yu's eyes. She was very frightened and began to shout that he was trying to kill her. Sheila shook her whole body, after which she ran away. Li Yu first he told his servant that there was no need to worry, after which he gave the order to catch up with the girl and not let her spread false gossip. The boy immediately hurried to carry out the order. She ran outside but tripped and fell. The servant caught up with her and immediately asked her not to do anything against the prince. Sheila was trembling with fear, and those around her could not understand what was happening. Suddenly, in yard, and the Duke's carriage appeared, and Sheila realized that her sister had been nearby all this time, and was waiting for her to appear and embarrass the girl. The brunette began to understand what her sister's plan was. Feigning surprise and concern, Daisy got out of the carriage and asked her sister why she was here. The people around were surprised to see the Duchess and began to gather in a crowd to hear what was happening. Sheila pretended to be embarrassed, which was exactly what Daisy expected. In the brunette's opinion, her sister must have thought that the plan to expose Sheila as the prince's temptress had succeeded the way she wanted it to. Daisy did not understand how her sister was able to run from the palace, but she decided to play the situation so that everyone around could see the younger Lady Lancaster's hysteria. Her eyes glowed with cunning and mockery. The blonde tried to touch her sister and asked what was eaten. Sheila trembled with fear and answered with tears in her eyes that someone was trying to kill her. Sheila played the role well, so Daisy believed. Crown Prince Li Yu appeared behind, who did not understand what was happening. He walked confidently towards Lady Lancaster. Sheila began to tell her sister in a panic attack that this is the man who wants to kill her. Daisy was stunned by her sister's words because her whole plan had collapsed. She couldn't understand what made Sheila think that it was Crown Prince Li Yu who wanted to kill her. Bliavka hugged her sister, as if trying to comfort, hide, and calm her, although she herself did not understand how all this was going against her plan. Sheila clung to Daisy for protection. Daisy tried to bring her plan to the end and told the prince to forgive Sheila. She added that their engagement would be cancelled and her sister would never enter the academy as punishment for what she had done. Li Yu easily accepted the conditions and noted that Sheila would not enter the academy and Daisy would not be engaged. He didn't care about either situation, so nothing changed on his face. Sheila was worried that she would be killed after all, to which Daisy reassured her and promised to solve the problem. Suddenly, Sheila beamed with delight, for she had a way that could reveal her possible killer. Daisy wanted to calm her sister down and end the show, But Sheila stood her ground. She revealed that she had recently created a magical weapon, a camera that had a recording showing how and who intended to kill her. The girl created energy in her hands and released it into the sky. Daisy stood quietly until everyone present saw and heard every word and action on the part of the elder Lady Lancaster earlier in the palace. Sheila began to cry, unable to believe her eyes. Really, it was her own sister who tried to get rid of her. The crowd changed their minds and could not fathom that Daisy could go to such a thing. And most importantly, why? Daisy felt sick with shame and had nothing to say. Prince Li Yu smiled lightly, realizing what kind of game the Lancaster family was playing, because it was at this moment that the Duke appeared and was already apologizing for his daughter. The Duke got out of the carriage and turned to the prince, promising that he would teach them manners based on the actions of both daughters. Immediately after these words, another hastened to speak to the prince and the crowd with his good deeds, supposedly for the people. The man declared orally that the construction of the children's home was completed, and that anyone can take care of one of the children who will be settled in this home and will provide protection and education. The crowd was delighted. Sheila was unhappy, because she perfectly understood that the father fooled people and did not care about the children. The only thing that mattered to him was reputation and money. Therefore, she decided to deal with it later. Daisy was sitting in her room drinking tea. A trembling servant was kneeling before her, who assured her that the bottle she had received as a gift was full and she had not taken a drop from it. Daisy was thoughtful, thinking she hadn't used enough of the potion on her sister. She raised a cup of tea to her lips and pondered over her actions. But she was allegedly not angry with the servant, although she was disappointed. The servant had the temerity to say that Sheila would not be a threat to the blonde. In turn, the elder Lady Lancaster became furious, because she was sure that her sister was not standing next to her. The woman was trembling with fear. She tried to excuse herself, but she didn't have time to say more than one word. Daisy once executed her, using her magic against the first. After a while, Sheila walked around the house and thought about how to get to the academy. After all, now she is punished, and in a few months she will still not be able to enter the academy because of her sister's prank. The girl was changing clothes in her room and only now realized how cheap everything around was. She lived like a servant, not the Duke's second daughter. She didn't even have anything to grab onto to go to the pawn shop. Suddenly, the brunette noticed that an unfamiliar pendant was hanging around her neck. She looked at it in surprise and noticed that it was made of pure gold, and in the middle was a beautiful blue stone, probably a sapphire. The girl left the house to meet the crown prince, because of which the servant of His Highness was very surprised. As it turned out, Li Yu was waiting for Sheila, and the servant did not believe that she would return after her recent adventures. The boy was worried that the girl could harm His Highness, so he warned her that he would not leave it suddenly. He respected the prince and his service, so he played it safe once more. Li Yu was sitting at the desk in the office. He had a serious expression on his face, as always. Turning to the girl, he expressed that he was expecting her later. Surprise did not even cross his face. Sheila crouched across from him and apologized for what she had done earlier in the day. The prince crossed his arms and noted that she did not come only for this. The conversation was light-hearted but implied a contract. She offered him cooperation, which he was interested in. In exchange for the fact that the prince will allow her to study at Magical Academy, she will make magical weapons for him, which is important for him. He easily agreed, because he was just missing one mage. To Sheila's surprise, the prince offered her entry into the wizarding tournament, and he himself could help with a letter of recommendation for entry. In order to get a lucky ticket in the future, she had to create a magical artifact for him in 3 days, which was a difficult task, but the girl was determined and agreed to complete the order on time. The brunette returned home late, and her disappearance could be noticed. She climbed over the fence when suddenly she heard a guard guarding the area. The girl got nervous because she had nowhere to hide. The boys had almost reached the bushes where she was hiding, when suddenly her pendant began to glow, which indicated the activation of magic in the artifact. The men saw no one where Sheila had been a moment ago. They decided that both of them had given up, although they were sure that someone was hiding there. Therefore, leaving the bushes alone, they went away. The young lady realized that she was in her pendant. There was a slight surprise on her face, but not a drop of fear. An outside hand was clamped on her neck, but that did not scare her either. The stranger held her hands above her head, not letting go of her neck with the other hand. He looked intently into her eyes. This gesture seemed very strange to the girl, because it is not every day that she is pressed against the wall like this. After moving away from the shock, fear and panic appeared on Sheila's face. She does not understand where she is and why a stranger is holding her. She assumed he was the spirit or god of her artifact. His look was calm, warm. The man looked at the girl without letting go. He urged her to be silent, after which he showed that she was now his slave. Sheila pulled herself together and told the spirit of her pendant that she knew the rules of its existence and staying in the ornament. Therefore, she will not be able to help him get out. He suddenly relaxed and removed his hand from her neck. The man smiled mockingly and said that the girl was confusing him with deities or spirits because he was not even standing next to them. That is why the rules had no force for him, because he was more powerful. He gently touched her chin so that she would look him straight in the eye and not miss a word. Looking at her from top to bottom, he introduced himself as the ancient god Asius. Sheila looked at him with incomprehension because she was sure that because all the deities disappeared long ago. She couldn't understand how he could end up in the pendant. The girl was waiting for an explanation. Asius used his magic on her to make a contract where she would be his slave. But a voice in her subconscious pulled her into reality almost at the moment when he was already concluding a blood contract. Sheila did not want this, because there were many plans for life and revenge. Pulling herself together, she used her magic and bound Asius with a magical golden energy, sitting up for safety. She was determined. Despite the fact that he had already managed to bite her blood around her neck for the ritual, she broke a one-sided deal with him that only benefited him. Magic helped her in this. He smiled slyly, saying that he didn't expect her to be so strong. But it wasn't for long. With the attribute of light, she still won't be able to hold him forever. Sheila smiled triumphantly, questioning whether he was sure of what he was saying. Her eyes were burning and her body was relaxed, which spoke of a trump card up her sleeve, which Asius did not like. Asius looked at her, not understanding where she was going, although he felt something was wrong. The girl raised his face by the chin, which led him into misunderstanding, because her actions were very decisive towards God, as for a mortal. She sat triumphantly on top of him, continuing to restrain herself through magic. Sheila placed her hand on his chest in the heart area and said that he was too weak, and she could kill him at any moment. He could not say anything, and her eyes were burning with devilish red light, because only she would be the mistress in their relationship. The deity has no choice but to accept, because Sheila has all the trump cards. The girl offered him a deal. Of the two options, the other chose cooperation, because being a servant of man was not in his rules, and in general, pride and the statute of the deity did not allow him to do so. He understood that this was beneficial for him because he did not want to disappear from the world at all. Sheila approached his face, and before making the deal, she asked for a gift from the ancient deity for herself. He smiled slyly, like a fox, and then a light flashed between them. He was passing on ancient magic to her that had been lost with the deities. This gift was priceless and needed by the girl. Asius set a condition. In exchange for magic that will help her become a goddess, she must resurrect him. He warned that first she needed to tame the new power she had gained, then he could be free. Everything around shone, a pentagram appeared, and new signs for Sheila as well. Asius was giving her a power that was incomparable to what she had seen and felt before. She looked with interest at the power in her hands. Now she could stop time, albeit briefly and for a short distance. She wondered if Asius could be the one who brought her back in time and resurrected her. The deity replied that he did not need it. He suddenly asked if she really died and was brought back to the past. But the girl refused to answer, saying that it is not necessary for him to know this. She freed him from the magical shackles of thee and offered to conclude a contract. The man smiled contentedly, as if he was on a horse in the situation, and the girl reminded that the contract was on equal terms. They also uttered words of oath and concluded a magical contract on blood, making small wounds on their palms. Now everyone's life depended on each other. As long as he lives, she will live, and vice versa. As soon as the deal was made, Sheila magically returned to her dimension, then immediately heard Asius's voice in her head, saying that he would come as soon as she called him. The man stared intently at the ring on his hand, which completely replicated the design of the pendant he was held captive in. It turned out that the pendant took a new shape due to the terms of the contract. Sheila noticed that her pendant was already in the shape of a ring, and remarked that it was much more comfortable. A voice in his head warned that the ring could be used in the same way as the pendant. Sheila asked Asius, "Can he come out?" But he noted that as long as her magic is weak, nothing will work. The brunette is determined to quickly learn new magic and create a weapon for the prince, as she promised. The events take place 16 years ago. A very small Sheila is in the arms of her mother, who apologizes to the child with an expression on her face, because soon the woman will leave this world. A carefree child smiles at her mother, and around her neck hangs the same magical pendant that will help Sheila through life. Her mother begs to protect the amulet and break the family curse. Before abandoning the child, the woman sits on the floor and bequeaths that the curse must be broken by the age of 19, because it was after this that all the women of their family died. The woman believed in her daughter's strength. Sheila grew up without her father all her childhood, but one day her father still found her in the forest, which her late mother was afraid of. The girl was standing in front of the big gate and was delighted. Her red eyes looked around the estate with great admiration. The baby's chubby cheeks were ruddy. Sheila was happy because she realized that she was born not from cabbage, as she thought, but that she has a family. Sheila stood in the middle of the Duke of Lancaster's large office. He himself sat at the table and looked at the child with contempt. Reluctantly, he took her into his room and introduced Sister Daisy, who was sitting by the window reading. Daisy didn't react at all to the girl, being completely focused on the book. The girl looked noble, restrained, as a real lady should. She completely immersed herself in studies, which fascinated the younger one. After 2 years in her father's house, Sheila awakened her magic. Her plans included leaving the house as soon as she grew up, because everyone around her pointed to her position, the Duke's illegitimate child. Sheila's older sister saw her gift and said that such power was rare. Her smile was warm and full of love, but Sheila realized over the years that it was fake. She looked in front of her, as if pictures from the past lay before her eyes. Curls of her black hair gently fell over her face. The girl realized that she should take revenge on everyone who harmed her. Sitting at the dinner table with her sister and father, Sheila suddenly burst out laughing. She acted like she didn't know anything, so she said she misunderstood Daisy. The Duke and his eldest daughter looked at the brunette. Daisy smiled slightly, said that she was not offended, and the Duke looked worried, as if he did not expect this from his youngest daughter. Taking advantage of the situation, Sheila asks her father for permission to go outside the house. She concealed her desires by saying that she wanted to choose a gift in honor of Daisy's coming of age and as a sign of reconciliation. The Duke looked concerned, but agreed that Daisy needed an apology. It will be especially appropriate at a girl's coming-of-age ceremony. His thick eyebrows met on the bridge of his nose. Worried, Daisy begs her father not to rescind his punishment for the girls so quickly. Deep in her soul, she feels that something is happening with her sister. Because of this, she does not want to forgive her so quickly and let her out into the world. Lancaster explains that there will be important people at the reception, almost the entire royal court. Since the events were in the Crown Prince's palace, it would be an important gesture to clear things up and preserve the family's reputation. Not from the whole heart, because of strength, Daisy squeezes out a benevolent smile and says that she will wait for her sister's gift. Vaughn is disturbed by how Sheila has changed and does not believe her words. Sheila already knows what gift she will prepare and is sure that her dear sister will never forget it. Her whole appearance suggests that she is determined and determined only to win. The girl had big plans for her family. Later, Daisy approached her father and expressed her displeasure, because her sister had changed and this could harm their plans. The girl worries that Sheila may no longer listen to them with her father as before. The Duke assures that there are rules of their kind that everyone must obey. He is sure that as a Duke, he has an influence on everyone. If this does not happen, in his opinion, the younger woman can be considered a traitor. For the success of the family and Daisy, he says that after her coming-of-age ceremony, Sheila will be like her own alchemist. All the magical weapons she will make will be disguised as Daisy. A satisfied smile played on the girl's face. She already had a plan to make her sister work for her benefit. Therefore, Daisy assured her father of hypocritical love for her younger sister. Sheila went for a walk. In her thoughts was the voice of Asius, who thought Daisy was not pretty and banal for mage power. The brunette didn't agree with her sister's looks, but her heart was the same. The girl finished the dialogue with God, after which she went in search of a gift for Daisy. She planned to search in the local square crossroads of the Paladins, where there were many different cow shops. She walked the large square and thought about how in her past life she had made money here by creating magical items. At the moment, she did not have enough funds, so she was looking for ways to earn money. She couldn't enter a store with a luxurious sign because only nobles could enter there. But there was a recycling of junk shop nearby. Sheila could earn money here because she knew how to work with objects. She approached the seller and began to look at various goods that could help her create something. The man offered his help, but the girl had to familiarize herself with things first. The man and the girl turned their attention to Sheila. The girl was aggressive towards the brunette and expressed a desire to remind about the conflict in the prince's palace, because she loved Daisy. She confidently walked towards Sheila when her brother tried to stop her. But the girl was determined to make a scandal and wanted to protect the honor of Lady Daisy, whom she considered a friend. Sheila asked the seller about the price of the product, but the man looked at her and decided that he could rob her by quoting the price of the product higher than it really is. The girl jumped up to the bench where Sheila was and loudly addressed her as if she were the crown prince's temptress. Her brother walked behind, feeling ashamed of his sister's actions. Sheila smiled lightly, openly showing her dignity. To the insolence of the girl, she expressed the same, said that the Viscount's daughter is garbage because she came to the recycling bench. The girl became enraged and screamed louder. She threatened to tell Daisy everything, but the brunette was adamant and offered to do it as soon as possible. This made the first one even more angry. The man was surprised by Sheila's answer and noticed that she had changed because the girl did not feel humiliated. On the contrary, she defended herself worthily against every insult and threat of his sister. The Viscountess could not stand the humiliation and swung at Sheila to slap her, but the girl caught her hand. The girl did not expect this, and Sheila looked at her with a displeased expression. Having endured a pause, Sheila sharply pushed away the hand of the attacker, after which she herself hit the Viscountess in the face, said that this is how a slap is done. Sheila's expression conveyed maximum indifference. The man approached his sister and told her that she was wrong, but the girl began to manipulate them, saying that he is her brother so she should hit back in honor of protecting her sister. But he calmly smiled at her. The young man was wiser, so he distracted his sister from the conflict. He offered to choose a present for Daisy as soon as possible. Otherwise, it would be better to sell it. The younger one reacted quickly and agreed with him. Finally, the girl added behind Sheila's back that her position was only for garbage, because she herself would buy a gift from an expensive dressmaker. These words did not affect the brunette. She calmly went back. The seller was worried about whether the girl was feeling well. Sheila replied that the girl was very stupid to try to get angry after a humiliating slap. Suddenly, she saw an egg on the counter. The girl assumed that it could be the egg of a magical beast. She wondered where it could come from and noticed that the seller himself did not understand what he was selling. Sheila offered to buy all the goods for 10 copper coins. The seller was glad that he did not have time to deceive her, as he had wished before. He changed his mind about her because he saw that she knows how to stand up for herself. Satisfied, she sent all the goods to her magic ring, where she kept various things. She was going to turn all the junk into gold by renting a room in the Tower of Magic. After visiting the Tower of Magic, Sheila went to the reception desk, where she rented an entry-level room for an hour for 5 copper coins. The guy gave her an access card and told her how to use it. Sheila began creating gold coins, glad that everything going on in the room was confidential. She knew that alchemy was the work of a lifetime for every salesperson, so she was glad that she could do it. According to the rules of alchemy, when metal and stone reacted with the help of Sheila's magic, gold coins were immediately created that clinked as they fell to the ground in a stream of gold. Sheila did not stop working, noting about herself that for the Lancaster family, it was very important to have money, power, and status. The girl was sure that with new powers and opportunities, she would have more. Gold earrings with large pure rubies glittered in the window. The seller noted a large amount for them, because this magical decoration belonged to the S level, which significantly increased the value. The girl was stunned because the price was not real for her and her brother's budget, but she wanted to buy the best gift for her friend on her birthday. Andre was no less surprised. Andre listened in amazement to the history of the earrings and the reasons why they cost so much. In the background was Amy, who still wanted those earrings as a present for Daisy. The decoration was under a glass bulb. Introducing her, the seller said that the earrings were on auction, but there was a lot of merchandise, so they are now in the store. Andre and his sister were even more surprised because they didn't understand what kind of auction it could be if the S-level magic ornament just ended up in the store and wasn't sold. The boy quietly turned to his sister, assuring her that they should choose the A-level product because it was cheaper, because they only took 600 gold coins with them, which was barely enough for jewelry. Amy did not agree with this because she thought that Daisy would be happy with this particular product. She suggested that the boy return home and take the money, which was not enough, because it was Amy who was supposed to buy these earrings. Andre knew that if he didn't do this, his sister would cause him problems. But 1,000 gold coins is their earnings a little more than in 1 year. He decided to agree, but put forward a condition. He looked seriously at the girl and said that the condition would be not to touch the Duke of Lancaster's youngest daughter again. Amy was very surprised, because she did not understand why Andre was suddenly protecting a stranger. Not immediately, but Amy agreed for Daisy's sake, but the expression on her face was displeased. She frowned slightly, but her determination to find a better gift for the older Lady Lancaster softened it. As soon as Andre said that he would come with the money soon, the door of the magic shop opened and Sheila herself entered. Her gait was confident, elegant. The guy froze, surprised to see her in the store. She stood before him in a new golden dress. The neckline was decorated with a brooch with a green sapphire stone. The earrings on her ears were made of the same stones. There was a pearl necklace around her neck. She greeted him and asked for directions. He bowed, stepping aside as a gentleman should do. Sheila walked into the hall at the young man's worried expression. Amy was furious when she saw Sheila in the expensive store. She crossed her arms over her chest and aggressively asked what a girl was doing in such a place. However, Sheila did not react to her and passed by. The girl expressed dissatisfaction with her whole appearance. In her mind, she was sure that the brunette was too poor to buy anything of value in the store. In silence, Amy looked at Sheila, who was standing nearby. Sheila went to the display case where the earrings were and asked the price. Her face shone with joy because she knew that she could afford such an expensive thing, so she immediately announced her intention to buy them. The seller announced the price of 1,000 gold and was about to offer to look at her other goods, which could be cheaper for her, but she only smiled. The jewelry shone brightly under the glass. She used the power of the ring to store items. In a moment, a mountain of gold coins appeared on the floor, which greatly surprised the seller. Satisfied, Sheila said that she buys this product. Amy was even more surprised. Her face seethed with envy and malice. While the salesman put the coins in a bag, Amy wondered where Sheila got so much money and what to do in a difficult situation. The girl clenched her teeth in anger and watched as Sheila made the purchase. Amy thought that the crown prince might have given her the money, but that fell through because he liked Daisy. Suddenly, she grabbed Sheila's hand and started shouting at the whole store. Amy asked where the girl had so much money and where it came from. She thought Sheila had stolen them. The seller tried to intervene and calm the girl down, but the Viscountess started shouting at him as well. She ordered not to sell anything to Sheila and noted that the brunette was the Duke's illegitimate child. Sheila calmly smiled and directed her gaze at the girl. The girl tilted her head to the side. She asked if Amy was sure about the theft or if there was any proof of it. The brunette was confident. Sheila is fed up with this situation. She pushed Amy away, freeing her hand from her grasp. Returning to the seller, the brunette asked for help with the packaging of her goods, to which the man quickly agreed. Amy blocked the boy's path and started shouting that they were hers because she wanted them first. The guy was surprised and didn't know what to do because there was a lady in front of him and he couldn't be rude. Sheila's expression showed a sneer at Amy, for her behavior was unbecoming, especially for a lady. The brunette asked her if Amy had already paid for the product, or if she had paid a deposit. Andre returned to the shop, having already managed to go home to collect the money. He looked at his sister's actions in surprise and did not understand the essence of the conflict. Amy, seeing him, began to ask for help in arguing. Andre was confused, looking at his sister's behavior. Sheila calmly stood aside, not reacting, but the young salesman still tried to resolve the dispute. He tried to understand everything from the context. The salesman excitedly informed Andre that Sheila had just purchased a pair of S-level earrings. The brunette was looking at the man with a satisfied smile, and he was surprised to understand what was happening. He smiled warmly as he looked at his sister, then assured her that the A-level gift was also very valuable and would be appropriate. But in his mind, he was glad that he would not have to spend a lot of money on earrings. Amy was as angry as possible and screamed because she wanted to buy these earrings. Her whole body trembled with whimsy, like a small child's. Her hands were balled into fists in displeasure and resentment. His gaze became stern and his voice sounded icy. He looked coldly at his sister, reassuring her with one intonation. The boy was dissatisfied and believed that his sister was too spoiled by their parents. The girl unexpectedly fell silent and looked at her brother in surprise. She could not control her emotions. In her view, there was a lack of understanding why he went against her, because she always got everything. Andre apologized for the inconvenience to the seller and Sheila. The guy reacted calmly, although he was smiling, as if he was not comfortable with the situation. The brunette smiled and offered to teach the child manners. The man was walking to the exit of the store. He told his sister that they would buy a gift from another A-level store, otherwise there would be no gift. Amy was behind, clutching the skirt of her dress in displeasure. The girl's eyes burned with hatred and malice towards Sheila. She almost cried from resentment and mentally promised herself that she would definitely hurt her as soon as there was an opportunity, because she put herself above Sheila. The brunette calmly waited for her goods, supporting her chin with her hand. The girl did not express any emotions. She was nobler in spirit than anyone in title. Instead, her thoughts were far away. While the girl was in her thoughts, the seller packed the earrings in a beautiful pink package. He noted about himself that the girl is too fragile, so maybe she is crying now. He felt sorry for her. The packaging oozed beauty and color, and the decoration in the form of small flowers only complemented it. Next to it was a black card, which, according to the seller, was a pass to their auction. Sheila was delighted. It was obvious on her face, but the seller believed that she painted this smile, because it is impossible to quickly switch attention after such a conflict. But her attention was on the gift. Sheila left the store, but before that she thanked the boy by giving her a small gift. He accepted it and saw her off with a smile. He concluded in his mind that she was very polite. He was holding a round artifact in his hands, which turned out to be a B-level magic recording device. The face of the seller was very surprised, because he did not expect to receive such a thing as a gift. Sheila returned to the Tower of Magic and walked around the hall, attracting the attention of those around her. Everyone was delighted to see her, but no one understood who she really was. The girl looked noble and confident. She approached the guy and ordered a room with unlimited time. The girl handed him a gold card of the Imperial Bank and offered to cover all expenses in this way. He sat with a cigarette in his mouth and tried to remember if it could be that she was the girl who came in earlier and looked talentless. Silently, he handed her the room key card. The tower was at a height of 8,000 meters. That's why she needed teleportation to get there, which she was helped with. The tower itself shone with light shades and had a magical sign. The girl led Sheila into a room that was specially created for the higher mages of light. Sheila looked around the room when the two added that the brunette had a rare magical attribute. She was very friendly. In the room there were 2 magic circles with the same symbols, but different radiance. The woman explained that the red teleport circle leads up and the purple one leads down. She was friendly and smiling. The large door of the room was opened in front of Sheila. She entered it and everything around stunned her, because there was a lot of light inside. She closed her eyes and tried to feel the strength within herself. She was standing in the middle of the room and holding the magical egg she had bought with the junk in the square earlier in her palm. The girl hoped that she would be able to do something with him. She began to direct magic at the egg and hoped it would help it hatch. The black ball began to be enveloped in light, and the girl watched it with interest. She began to cast spells next to the egg, reciting the spell. Everything around shone with a warm golden glow. The girl's energy was directed at multiplying her strength and topping up the magical egg. Sheila was focused on perfecting her magic. She was very stressed because it required time and a lot of energy. A golden glow enveloped her and changed color. The tension was growing in the body. She almost emptied herself trying to achieve a greater effect. Her body was shaking due to the fact that she was expending a lot of energy, but the goal was to catch up to her older sister's level as soon as possible. Asius appeared before the girl. His hair developed from the streams of Sheila's energy. He calmly looked at her, but asked her to stop mocking him like that, because he saw that her strength was almost gone. She was on her knees, still emitting the yellow-red glow of her magic. Sheila looked at him in surprise, not believing that he was able to get out of the bubble. Her magic had become better, which allowed him to do so. His concern was directed at her, so he calmly explained to her that she had gone too far in perfecting her magic in one go, so she should stop so she wouldn't hurt herself. He got down on one knee in front of her and touched her hand warmly. Asius begged to stop absorbing the elements, because she would have time for it, because a little more and her body might not be able to withstand so much power. Sheila stubbornly continued her work. She lowered her head and said that she didn't have enough time before her sister came of age and entered the magical academy, so she intended to become stronger. She stubbornly went to the end, although her body could not withstand the tension. Asius tried to stop her, but she used even more magic, leaving her devastated and scratching her skin. The man yelled at her excitedly that she might not be able to bear such pain. He was worried about her, as his look showed. He tried to stop her in her actions, which unfortunately did not succeed. Her face was covered in her own blood from the magic burns. She looked up at Asius indifferently, as if there was no meaning in her life, and these actions were the only way out. She stubbornly went to her goal because time was short. Asius understood what she meant. Holding her palm, he promised to help her improve her magical skills, so he invited her to follow him, but she lowered her head and refused. Her cold gaze showed independence. Sheila explained that a mage cannot have stable magic if he is assisted. Tilting her head to the side, she firmly said that she did not need help. The tension was all over the body. She was exhausted, but she was going to the end. Clenching her teeth, the girl concentrated on increasing her strength. A little more, and she should have become a medium-level mage. She closed her eyes and began to feel her magic level rise. Level by level brought her to the higher level of average mage she dreamed of. Magic signs that gave her strength played around. Having overcome a difficult path, she smiled with satisfaction. Her eyes showed satisfaction at her work, but also tiredness. Despite the pain, she did it. She reached the required level and multiplied her power. Asius held the exhausted and unconscious Sheila in his arms. The girl spent too much energy multiplying the magic, but it was worth it. Although the husband was worried about her condition, he was proud of the work he had done. He quietly leaned over her, gently wrapped her in his arms, and kissed her on the forehead. The man recognized her work as excellent and accepted her as his mistress, after which he gave the girl time to rest. Sheila regained consciousness and lightly rubbed her eye, not understanding her condition. She said she felt like she made another deal because she was still tired. However, Asius did nothing of the sort. Unexpectedly for the two, the egg began to move. The girl drew attention to him, and Asius himself asked what kind of egg it was. They carefully watched the changes of the black ball that had almost hatched. After a while, the egg cracked, and a bird with white feathers hatched. The magical animal was talking, so the first words were Mom, Dad, addressed to Sheila and Asius. Both were shocked by the statement, because they did not expect such events. The bird said that his parents are very beautiful, and he himself will now be the bird of their family. Sheila and Asius could not recover for some time. Sheila looked at the emotional bird in confusion. Instead, the little crow talked a lot and behaved openly. The bird assumed that Sheila was kissing with Asius. In a moment, God put his jacket on the girl's shoulders, taking care of her comfort. Sheila turned her attention away from the bird and took care of it. gently adjusting the fabric on her shoulders. In a second, she recovered, understanding the words of the bird, and became angry. She raised her voice, ordering him not to call Asius father, as the animal did. But the bird did not calm down. The crow flew higher and asked again why he could not address Asius like that. Sheila was confused, but explained that they had a different relationship than the chick thought. The girl was embarrassed by the topic of nutrition. The girl straightened her back, crossed her arms on her chest, winked, and with a sense of authority told the magical animal that she was the owner for Asius. She was burning with the fact that she had such power. Asius raised the funnel to his eye level and examined it carefully. The animal itself looked scared because it did not know what was waiting for it. The man tried to remember where he had seen such a creature. The deity thrust the animal into Sheila's arms. He used magic to make the book appear. Hanging in the air as if sitting on an invisible chair, Asius began to search for information. The man began to read the information, which spoke of a clan that led all the magical beasts and belonged to the Black Crows. Asius added that after the disappearance of the gods, this clan disappeared. Sheila held a magical bird in her hands and looked at him with admiration. She smiled happily and asked what kind of magic he possessed, to which the blue-eyed replied that he could shoot fire. The bird wanted to demonstrate its skills as soon as possible. He absorbed all the energy and created a magical layer of fire. A yellow-red glow enveloped everything around the crow, who was very self-confident. Having accumulated energy, he threw a layer of fire, which turned out to be a small drop of ash. Asius and Sheila were perplexed. They expected something more from the chick's words. But for the small, the power is small. Voronyatko was outraged by the situation. He raised his wings in anger because his magical flame was supposed to be the size of a small town. With nothing better to choose, he decided it was because of Sheila's weak energy. Sheila began to scold the bird because he did not cope with the situation, but decided to blame someone. Asius decided to make notes on the magical creature that described the magic as being weak. Suddenly, she changed her anger to mercy and hugged the crow. The girl decided that he was still too small. Instead, she chose a name for him. From now on, the happy girl had the charm of the bird Fluffy. In a spacious white-green room where the fireplace crackled quietly, Daisy and the second Prince Arthur were talking. They were sitting across from each other when he noticed that Daisy's power had increased. Daisy was shining because she loved praise and had a high opinion of herself. She added that it was thanks to her father that she was able to receive the double star of a higher mage. Although the girl looked cute, her thoughts were black. The prince smiled gently, after which he said that the younger sister was a real loser. He admired the strength and grace of the blonde, not shying away from Sheila at all. The man intended to terminate the contract with the younger woman. The young people continued to have a conversation, after which Daisy hinted at the help of the prince when she will head the duchy, because she is the heiress, and her sister was not standing next to her. The prince had a sly expression on his face because he understood exactly what the girl meant. He made a promise to help, suddenly something, but now his main concern was breaking off the engagement with Sheila. The girl joyfully turned to God. Her black hair was blown in curls to the sides. She prepared a gift for her husband and quickly asked him to look in the ring, because she hid it right there. The man did not expect to receive something as a gift, especially from a mere mortal. Afterwards, he opened the gift box and looked at the new jacket that the brunette had chosen for him individually. An elegant black jacket embroidered with gold and decorated with blue stones complemented the beauty of Asius's eyes. This thing beautifully emphasized the appearance of the deity and matched his hair. Asius was suddenly surprised by his memories. His eyes widened as he remembered waking up from oblivion for a moment to see Sheila on fire. It seemed to him that it was he who saved her then. Sheila returned home and was on her way to her room when two maids told her that Lady Daisy and the eldest prince were waiting for her. The girl reacted calmly and went to the meeting. The girls whispered, mocking the brunette. They knew what was going on and put the girl next to their charter, because an illegitimately born child had no right to the imperial family. Sheila did not have time to enter the hall when the prince began to despise her, because she made him wait for her. Daisy played her role as the benevolent sister. The brunette walked over to the table where everyone was sitting. Prince Andrei quickly got up from the sofa and handed the girl a document that confirmed the break of their engagement. He demanded to sign the document without any extra words. Daisy tried to support Sheila. Sheila surprised everyone present because she easily signed the document. She told her sister that there was no one else in the room, so she shouldn't play the kind act that Daisy was playing. The prince was more confused. Sheila interrupted the prince, who was trying to defend Daisy's honor. She asked him not to appear in her sight again, because nothing binds them anymore. The bird supported her and chased the boy away. The man got angry because his honor was touched. He believed that Sheila was saying this because she liked him, precisely because he was putting himself above himself in a raised tone, and that he would never be with her. These words made the bird angry, and he began to say that the prince has big character problems and Sheila is the best mommy. Puknastik added that the boy was unworthy of his mother's attention and chased him away. The second prince was regaining his composure and had already switched his aggression to the chick. He shouted angrily, not understanding where this bird came from and on what basis he allowed himself to talk like that. Before leaving the hall, Sheila addressed the prince one last time. She advised him to marry her sister as soon as possible. Instead, she wishes them happiness, because the prince may not have another chance. The prince turned to Daisy, assuring her that he would propose to her father as soon as possible, so she had nothing to worry about, and will inform about it in the near future at a solemn event. The girl smiled at him. Daisy was unhappy about herself because she was also looking for an advantage in this person. By becoming the wife of the second prince, she will receive both wealth and power, which she needed. Everyone plays their own game. In the evening, Sheila sat in her room and reflected on the events. Fluffy was on the table and had bread for dinner. The girl rubbed her chin as if she thought better of it. The clock showed the beginning of 10 in the evening. She folded her hands on the skirt of her dress, thinking of the children's shelter her father had spoken of earlier. Thoughts led to the prince and his mother, the empress. Sheila was looking for a connection to help people. Suddenly, she cupped her fist in her palm, smiling contentedly. The girl understood what to do next, and the bird asked again, not understanding what it was about. Sheila intended to thwart other people's plans as soon as possible. She looked at the crow with satisfaction and told him that they had 2 big things to do this evening. Sheila's gaze was determined and persistent. Nothing could stop her. Sheila changed into a comfortable black coat and tied her hair in a ponytail for convenience. The girl came to the second prince's palace and sat in ambush while the guard patrolled below. The brunette got to the palace unnoticed, although the guards were watching the territory. The fluff was all this time on her left shoulder. She carefully closed the window behind her so that no one could hear her. Looking around, the bird was surprised because there was a lot of gold in front of them. He decided that his mother intended to steal the prince's gold. Sheila looked calm because she knew what she was going to do with the money. Fluffy looked surprised, spreading his wings. Does his mother want to steal the prince's gold? But Sheila calmly explained to him that he earned these funds dishonestly, and that everything should be returned to the people. Meanwhile, the prince sat in his chambers and rested with the girl. She sat on his lap and hugged him. He was pleased to say that he had finally broken off his engagement to Sheila and could now propose to Daisy. He celebrated his victory over the crown prince in absentia because he expected to receive from the duke the same support that would help him to be equal in the crown prince. The girl smiled supportively. An ordinary family sat at the dinner table and decided on taxes. They had nothing to pay fees for the year, so they could just demand to play. There was a box with a few coins on the table. A little girl with fair, curly hair approached her mother. The child's hair was collected in a hairstyle. The girl said she was hungry. The woman was worried about it, but did not have the strength to do anything. Embracing the child in her warm arms, she frowned and promised that she would definitely buy bread the next day. The woman understood that this was a lie on her part, but she had to do at least something for the family. Suddenly, the window opened as a bag of gold flew in. The man and woman turned their heads in the direction of the noise in surprise, not understanding what was happening. The living room was spacious, so the bag stood out a lot. A bag full of gold and various jewels lay in the middle of the room. He was like a gift of fate that gave the family hope for a new future, because thanks to this, they could pay taxes and provide for the child. Sheila was running around the town's rooftops and handing people their gold. which the second prince had illegally gotten his hands on thanks to her father's pranks. The bird flew around supporting the girl in every possible way. Fluffy suddenly flew up in front of the girl's face and offered to keep a little for herself because she had spent all her money earlier. He understood that she needed it and cared for her. Sheila smiled cheekily and said she didn't need the prince's black money. She was sure that she would find another way to make money if necessary, so she did not give everything to those to whom it belonged. 2 nuns were kneeling near the dome and begging the Lord for help. One woman told another that their children's shelter did not have enough money, which the Duke allocated for food. Sheila went to the window and eavesdropped on the women complaining about their financial problems. Her hair lay neatly over her shoulders as she awaited the outcome of her recent charity. Suddenly, a child with white hair entered the hall and said that the angel had given them money. The women looked around in surprise, not understanding where the gold coins in the child's hands came from. The child with blue, pure eyes was happy to say that there were many bags of gold outside, because it was a gift from the angels, with which they all pray. His eyes burned with faith in a miracle. The boy happily asked if they could buy books, to which the nun touched his head and replied that they would buy any. At that time, the second woman still understood where this gift came from. Suddenly, the nun found a black envelope with a seal among the bags of money. It was a secret message from Sheila, as a benefactor. The girl wrote to run away with the children from the Duke. After reading the letter, the nun turned to the second woman, who looked at her in surprise. As it turned out, they were to immediately gather all the children and hide where the Duke would never find them. Sheila was satisfied with her work for the benefit of Salinity. She touched her cheek, laughing, because the next day she already foresaw how indignant the prince would be at the Duke because of the events that were not in their favor. The girl had already reached another destination to fulfill the second errand she had set for herself in the evening. She gracefully, like a cat, jumped from the roof and ended up on the balcony of the prince's palace. Sheila stood in front of the window with her hair down. She tapped him softly. The secret meeting had to remain secret, so she tried not to draw attention to herself. Prince Li Yu came out on the balcony in a robe. He didn't expect to see Sheila, although he didn't show it in his behavior. The girl with a smile greeted him with a phrase about the finished order, which he entrusted to her. The man smiled when he saw her. He did not expect that she would complete the order not in 3 days, as agreed, but in just 1.5. He expressed his desire to look at the work, although he was busy. The balcony was big. Its railing was overgrown with pink roses, which added coziness. The crown prince accepted from Sheila's hand the magical weapon she had fixed for him. The prince looked in surprise at the construction in his hands. He noted that the thing was really like new, and the girl's magical attribute was light, but he did not understand why the Duke, her father, was hiding it. The girl turned to the prince for status, and he asked to call him Leo. He looked at the magic weapon in his hands, seeming to go into his thoughts little by little. Sheila asked why he had this thing. She looked at the man with a serious look, telling him that she had seen the symbol from the attribute before in books. The girl reported that this symbol in alchemy is used only on non-living things. Sheila added that she trusted the prince, so she was ready to give this thing, but she was anxious to know where he wanted to use such an important thing. The look on her face was a little worried because the weapon was dangerous. Suddenly, Leo destroyed the magic weapon in his palm by clenching it tightly in his fist. Broken parts fell past his fingers. He did this knowingly, but it surprised Sheila because she had just fixed her. He looked at the parts falling to the ground and said that he had tried many times to recreate the thing himself. He couldn't do anything because one element was missing. Sheila kept her hand on the balcony railing, listening to him with interest. She expected to learn something new. The man was a little sad. He looked ahead and still continued the dialogue. Looking at Sheila, he asked if she knew why there were so few creators in their world. The topic was an important one in the world of events, so Sheila was careful in reporting and receiving information. Sheila looked into the prince's eyes and calmly replied that she had heard rumors that many of the alchemists had lost their minds. After that, they lost themselves in the abyss of dark magic. The man directed his gaze into the distance and said that the real reason was to use people as test subjects. As a rule, experiments are conducted on objects, and many of the creators did it on people. Sheila listened to the prince's story and looked surprised, as if her eyes had just been opened to everything that was happening around her. She noted that creators have the right to use only objects, not living things. She decided to act wisely and not spoil the relationship with the crown prince, so she said that she should not know about all his affairs. The girl offered to contact her if he needed help. She looked at the prince in surprise when she found out that she was already enrolled in the Magic Academy. She was still carrying out his errands when he, in turn, had already enrolled her, as he had promised. He gave her a letter with a pass to the classes, which said that there was no need to take the entrance exams because there were not enough creators on their mainland. The only thing Vana had to do was pass a magic level test. Sheila read the letter and couldn't believe that it was really happening to her. She dreamed of studying at this academy for a long time, and finally her dream came true, which made her eyes light up with joy. Leo was standing alone on the balcony when his servant came to him. He approached the prince and was ready to obey any order. His Highness had several errands for the boy. The boy was surprised, because the crown prince ordered to do everything so that no one found out about Sheila's magical abilities before she entered the academy. He wanted her to be safe this time. His Highness still stood with his back to the boy, continuing to give orders. Leo wanted the blonde to be ready for Daisy's party in a few days. The boy was worried, asking if the prince would go to the holiday. But the brunette didn't answer that. He just sent the servant to get ready. His plans included the most important thing, to deal with the problems around him. Leo smiled and assured the servant that he needed to deal with his younger brother before taking care of Sheila. This game was just beginning for them. In the morning, Arthur jumped in bed, waking up to the news that his treasury was empty. He was sitting on the bed and gave the order loudly that the whole city should be searched, but they found the thief and executed him. The second prince's servant was on one knee in the middle of the room, head bowed. Suddenly, a second servant ran into the room shouting that there was trouble in the palace. Arthur became even more angry. Bad news awaited the prince in the morning. His face lost the color of life when he learned that the shelter he and the Duke were running was deserted. All the people had disappeared along with the children. Outside the children's shelter, there was a crowd reading a placard with information about the Duke's expenses, who was stealing everything that was supposed to go to the children. People were outraged by such news and cursed a lot. People who were on the street and learned the news about the thefts of the second prince and his accomplice, the Duke. They could not find the words to comment. Everyone was shocked by such actions because they trusted the authorities. The Duke of Lancaster stood opposite the window and listened to the servant's report on the asylum. He was calm, which was surprising because the Duke's position was not to be envied. He could lose everything at any moment. The Duke ordered to hold back the panic because right now, he and his subordinates should use as much common sense and coolness as possible when making such extremely important decisions in their lives. After listening, the Duke gave orders to write back that the head of the asylum had run away with the money that the Duke himself had donated. The man lied for himself. He added that the chapter should be searched in all cities and villages. The Duke was gloomy because he was doing everything to ensure that his reputation and Daisy's were not harmed. He looked at the servant, whom he ordered to kill the head of the asylum, and pass off the event as a suicide against the background of a guilty conscience. It's Daisy's coming-of-age day. Servants brought the estate to a luxurious appearance. Everything around was shining. The servants hurried to do everything on time and at the highest level, decorating the estate and setting the tables. Daisy came to Sheila and handed her a dress. The blonde looked pleased, as if there were no conflicts between the sisters. She wanted Sheila not to worry about breaking off the engagement and accept the dress. Daisy always gave old dresses to Sheila if there were any important ceremonies. The blonde said that she was expecting a gift from Sheila, but it was hypocritical, because the girl was expecting a trick from her younger sister. Sheila stood with a calm smile on her face. She recalled that when she went out in public, all the nobles immediately understood whose dress she was wearing, because of which they laughed and mocked her behind her back. The dress was coral with white bows and lace. The short sleeve discreetly hid the shoulders and not the deep neckline, so it was said to wear a pearl necklace around the neck. Then the young girl thought that people are really stupid creatures who make concessions for the sake of desired happiness. And once upon a time, a helpless and incapacitated young girl was also very happy. From Sheila's memories, her father used to show lambs as a child. He was smiling, stroking the animal that was eating grass. The girl listened to her father, who said that he was worried about the animals. Little Sheila was holding the bucket as her father spoke words that stuck like a dagger into the little girl's soul, and she could never forget the words that stayed with her forever throughout her life. He said that if an animal is given good advice and it listens to it, it will live happily throughout its life, but if it ignores the advice, it will live a bad life. The Duke's old face showed weariness. His kind smile gave inspiration and love, because of which I only wanted to help him and be useful. He drew Sheila to him like a father. Then the little girl looked at her father and couldn't figure out what exactly he was talking about. His words about animals seemed quite strange to her, although she kept this advice in her memories all the time. The girl smiled at her memories, throwing the dress on the ground. Only now did she understand the meaning of her father's words, because he considered her and her sister to be lambs. Only Daisy was just like him. The man was on one knee and bowed his head in respect. A man's gender sat before him. The first addressed the saint, asking whether his lordship was going to attend Daisy's reception or not. A slight smile appeared on the priest's face. He expressed the opinion that the girl should make a splash today, and if not, then she will not get the dukedom. His eyes were hidden under his yellow hair and hat. Kneeling before the altar in prayer, he said he would not go, but would only observe the events. In his opinion, the nobles should be the first to congratulate the girl, and he will decide later how to act. A large red carriage was driving on the way to the capital. It was made of mahogany and gold, so the origin of its owners was immediately clear. 2 thoroughbred horses pulled the carriage forward. A girl with red hair was sitting in a carriage and talking with her grandfather. She expressed displeasure with the elder Lady Lancaster. She was the granddaughter of the Marquess Campbell and was to go with him to the holiday. The girl was holding a black cat in her arms, which was peacefully sleeping. She was outraged that she had to go to the birthday of the person she hated the most. She asked her grandfather why she had to go. The man's face looked not so much old as dark. He knew a lot because he had time to see a lot. Marquis explained that the holiday is important because of what will happen to the family in the future, so they should be there. The girl did not calm down. She was still displeased, for she knew perfectly well that the dukes were against the Marquis. Her hope was only in the ancestors, who she thought should not acknowledge Daisy. The sun was setting and the Marquis's carriage was already approaching the capital. The man laughed at his granddaughter's expression and supported her, because she was right about the Lancaster family. All the same, they had to come to the event. The banquet looked great. There was a lot of food and drink on the table. The guests were relaxing, chatting with each other, drinking wine. Everyone had as much fun as they could before it got down to the main event of the evening. The guests took turns approaching the Duke and his daughter, expressing delight at Daisy's upbringing and her magical abilities. The Duke accepted the greetings, and Daisy stood shyly by and smiled. Daisy stood in a white luxurious dress with diamond jewelry. She gratefully accepted the greetings and replied to the admiration for her level of magic that it was all thanks to her father, who trains her well. Amy appeared at the party and hurried to congratulate Daisy. The blonde was polite, although she did not show joy at meeting the girl. Meanwhile, the Duke was having a conversation with his husband against the background of his charming daughter. She was beaming with joy because the girls had not seen each other since their graduation. In the hands of the girl was a present for Daisy. Amy chose blue paper for the package and a white flower for the bow.